Bulgaria, they say, pronounce it Burisia, a real beautiful company. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
It's like a shark, NATO, except with poop.
Out in the nation, Waldorf Nation. It's Thursday! Time for another fun show. Welcome, everybody, to the stream. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. We're going to have a fun show today. So, before I get to that, and the breakdown of what we're doing today, those of you who were not here yesterday, a little bit of a power situation. We had a massive storm, water, wet water, very big water, great water, tremendous from the standpoint of water. And so, actually, literally, there was flooding, though, in our little town. And so, took a couple of hours to get back and restored. I lost a few hours of work and was not able to make the show in time. So, we're back. Everything's good now, at least in my neck of the woods. Thankfully, we were like Anakin Skywalker, I'm sorry, not Anakin, but unlike Anakin Skywalker, we actually had the high ground. So that saved us from some flooding. And so we're good. The cleanup efforts in this in our small little town going well. So why didn't I consider nuking that storm? Wait, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna talk about some weather. Because apparently, according to Trump, the Chinese might be shooting hurricanes at us. What? Okay, anyway, we're gonna talk about that. That's a fun segment. I know it's a couple days old, but I really want to talk about it. We got the one thing that could take down the groypers, the white nationalist group headed by Nick Fuentes. That is also a fun story. We got OAN admitting the truth for once in its entire existence. We have the left can't meme. Oh, you're gonna love that video. It's so bad. It is so bad. Oh, yes. And then Alex Jones, and yes, a little bit of Mike Pillow. We're gonna have at the end of the show. So, fun times, interesting segments that we've got to talk about today. By the way, I just want to talk about a little bit of breaking news. The House Select Committee, the January 6th committee, has subpoenaed Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan, Scott Perry, Mo Brooks, and Andy Biggs as part of their investigation. I don't really think that's a gigantic deal. And I know, like, right now, there are people in the Washington press who are like, oh my God, unprecedented, unprecedented. Look at this, investigate. No, unless you actually do something about it, do something real. And again, a subpoena, okay, great, but are they going to follow it? Because Steve Bannon hasn't. They're not going to show up. So, look, I'm not going to be impressed unless they take the people who are not following court, just ignoring the subpoenas to go and show up and testify. I'm not going to be impressed until they throw those people in jail, until they cooperate. Until that happens, this is a strongly worded letter. Ooh, oh. Yeah, they're going to ignore it. And so not a big, not huge news in that regard, but, they have a chance to do something. Why? Why don't they do it? Did I hear that the ACLU supports Trump's return to Twitter? You would be correct, Frog Wizard of Prague. Look, the ACLU does a ton of wonderful work. Let me just get that, let me just say that real quick, okay? They do a ton of wonderful work. And generally, I support much of what they do. Sometimes, though, oof. Like, for example, on the issue of unlimited money in politics being considered free speech, the ACLU is also on the wrong side of that issue, because I think unlimited money in elections means unlimited corruption in our elections. So I'm not with the ACLU on that, and I'm not really with the ACLU on letting Donald Trump back on Twitter. Again, that's not really a civil rights issue, so I don't know why they're even weighing in. It's a corporate decision. So these are private companies, private corporations. Now, if you want to talk about, like, well, we should have a nationalized platform, well, that's a different conversation, where, free speech rights might actually matter in that context. I don't know why they're getting involved, and generally I'm like, no, actually, as much as good it would be for my channel and content, like, Trump's tweets, you don't understand how much comic gold there is for someone like myself. I think, actually, maybe you do know. So, a lot of fun. So in a way, I'm kind of lobbying against myself by saying, yeah, maybe the guy shouldn't be back on Twitter. But that's not up to me. That's up to, apparently now, Elon Musk, who owns Twitter, or whatever the Twitter CEO is going to be when the deal goes through, if the deal goes through, etc. And so, yeah, it is what it is. But I generally like the work that they do over at the ACLU. And so, for the most part, they'll still get my support, but they can be wrong from time to time, and I'm sure they believe that my opinion might be wrong on this. Yeah. All right. Anyway, that said, let's move on here. Let's go to segue to the Trump story, actually, and let's talk about hurricane guns. Okay. Former President Donald Trump had once asked if China was shooting hurricanes at the United States. I'm not kidding. This has been widely reported, and actually comes from Mark Esper's new book. Now, before I go into the details, let me just say, don't buy his book. Mark Esper is a coward and was a yes man for Donald Trump while he was there. They literally referred to him as Mark Yesper. So, and like a lot of these grifters that worked in the Trump White House that were attracted to power and were very right-wing, he decides that afterwards, oh, I'm going to release a book containing information that we should have actually known, especially before an election, about how insane the former president of the United States actually was. But no, we're going to sit on it. I'm going to sit on it. And the reporters are going to sit on this information so that they can write a book. And so, anyway, with that out of the way, let's move on. And I'm going to give you an excerpt here. Near the beginning of Donald Trump's time in office, the then president had a pressing question for his national security aides and administration officials. Does China have secret technology, a weapon even, to create large man-made hurricanes and then launch them at the United States? Man-made hurricanes being launched at the United States. That's what the former president believed. Like a weapon. What? Again, this is total weirdo nonsense conspiracy theory stuff. Of course, this is like the whole HARP satellite thing. Like, oh, you know, they're doing the weapons. They're creating the weather weapons. Like this stuff that you would hear on InfoWars. And then, of course, also akin to like the Jewish space lasers from Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so, I mean, and I compare those things because it's all the same kind of nonsense. Nonsense. And by the way, when you look at the logistics of it, does he not know where China is? Any hurricane launched from China, the shortest route would be through the Pacific and would hit the West Coast. Does he not understand that? I mean, it'd have to go through the West Coast. And generally, no, these hurricanes in hurricane season develop in the Gulf and in the Atlantic Ocean and then go to the East Coast or around Texas and in Florida, etc. And so none of that makes any sense. China has many bases in Africa, says PG in the chat. oh, touche. Wow. All right. Now, again, he didn't just ask once. He asked multiple times. One former Trump official, described as intimately familiar with the then sitting president's inquiry, first said that, I'm sorry, this is according to two former senior administration officials. And a third person, Trump had asked about this multiple times. And then another one is quoted as saying that, quote, it was almost too stupid for words. I did not get the sense he was joking at all.
Wet ass P word.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong.
It's like a shark, NATO, except with poop.
Okay. All right. This later became known as the hurricane gun thing in some official circles. Trump didn't call it a hurricane gun. Maybe he should have. It would have been funnier. But that seems hardly the point. No, the guy thought that the Chinese might be shooting hurricanes at us. Like, what? Dumbest man in America. He was president. He might be again. He might be again. No, there are people out there that listen to him. They listen to him talk. We got the windmills, the sound from the windmills, it gives you the cancer. They listen to that. And then they hear, well, maybe they don't hear about the conspiracy that China is launching hurricanes at us. But they think, nailed it. That's my guy. That's my guy. Smartest man in America. No. I mean, and of course, this makes more sense now when you put it in context with when he had asked about nuking hurricanes, because he thinks, well, if the Chinese are launching the hurricanes at us, then we're just going to nuke the hurricane and destroy their weapons. Obviously, very stable genius. I know more about hurricanes than anybody has ever, than everybody could ever know about hurricanes. I have tremendous knowledge. My uncle John Trump, he was at MIT. He was a scientist, and he knows all about the nuclear. You're kidding, right? I mean, I remember covering the nuking of the hurricane. I remember that, and I'm like, that can't be that. Okay, that's got to be the most insane thing I've heard. No, it got worse. His staff literally had to explain to him very slowly that sending a nuke into a hurricane wouldn't end the hurricane. It would just make the hurricane radioactive. I mean, it's amazing how there were so many people in that administration, right? Very, very conservative, very right-wing people, right? They get into this administration, and then they realize, oh my God, he's an insane person. That we are not dealing with a very mentally stable person at all. We're not talking about a bunch of lefties here. We're talking about Mark Jesper. We're talking about people like John Bolton. We're talking about Mad Dog Mattis, who ended up being the more adult people in the room, and having to say, "Hey, look, Donald, we can't nuke a hurricane. We can't. It makes no sense. It's not possible. Why can't we nuke a hurricane? Give me my Sharpie." Holy shit. He's nuts. He's certifiable. Believes in every single conspiracy theory you can imagine. And again, people in his administration had to get together to make like a suicide pact's probably the wrong phrase for that. But they had to make a pact to quit if Trump did certain things, like overstep the line. I mean, how close, like, it makes you wonder how close we were to actual annihilation from this guy. Again, he believes in every single conspiracy theory, except for, but he doesn't believe in climate change. Climate change is actually making hurricanes stronger and more frequent. By lengthening the time of hurricane season, giving them more energy through the warm water, the warmer oceans. And so that's the real problem. Why don't we do something about climate change? No, I don't believe in that. That's garbage. Weather weapons, I'm in on it. I think you're onto something. Weather weapons. Look. You tell me. All right, and this is we're gonna get serious for a moment here. In his next administration, if he runs and he wins, do you think he's gonna put people in his administration that might stop him? I mean, I don't think he's a dumb person. You think he's gonna make the mistake twice of putting in people that he does not know if they're loyal? Again, insane, very, very dumb, but my God, the guy is driven. And I think he's going to surround himself with not the best people, because we see how that worked out. No, people who are more loyal to him than they are to democracy. That should concern everyone. If he gets back in, they'll all be in acting positions again. Oh. I mean, that depends if, like, the Democrats are able to even hold on to the House and the Senate. They're losing to these people. That's the worst part. Democrats are losing to these people. Wow. All right. Moving on, let's go to another story. appears the white nationalist movement, or at least one of these groups in the white nationalist movement, run by Nicholas Fuentes, which has become very powerful online, by the way. Well, it apparently has one weakness: the ladies. So now, according to the Daily Beast, that movement, the groypers, are undergoing a little bit of turmoil when it comes to their staff, because a former treasurer defected from the group. Why? He got a girlfriend and then moved out of Fuentes's basement. Okay. All right. So hold on here. So for those of you who don't know, the groyper movement, again, they're ultra white nationalists, incredibly misogynistic, but then they also are incels, or involuntarily celibate. And so, well, they call themselves involuntarily celibate. Although apparently, I mean, I don't know. In this case, as soon as the opportunity presented itself, the treasurer's like, yo, F this noise, I'm out. I'm going to go get the girl. Well, I guess good for you, right? But they believe in not having sex. So they're super misogynistic, don't believe in having sex. They're essentially a cult. That's what it is. And so he was living in Nick Fuentes's basement. Look, if you didn't get laid and you lived in someone's basement when I was growing up, I mean, you wouldn't be like considered part of, oh, this is a very strong right-wing movement filled with alpha male. No, you would be considered a loser. Get your ass out of the basement and go date. Go try to meet somebody, go have some fun, live your life, that kind of thing. But no. It's a cult. It's a cult. And so, look, again, as soon as the man discovers the touchable woman, he's like, oh my God, I'm out. Nick Fuentes, groyper movement. So, what name? So, no, y'all are full of shit. I'm out. Nobody's shocked here. Now, the movement's former treasurer is calling that movement a cult. That's what I keep saying. Not shocking at all, because a cult is exactly what it is. Remember, one of the big signatures of a cult, to me, that I have noticed at least, is that they definitely pressure their members not to jerk off, okay, and not to have sex. Which is funny, because usually the cult leader is the only one having sex. And it's usually with the other people's wives or girlfriends. But in the incel movement, well, there are no wives and girlfriends in the movement, because they hate women. And so, but now, look, what that does, and this is kind of getting a little bit into the psychology of it, right? When you have a bunch of lonely, angry, resentful men, young men, okay, well, that makes them more open to listening to this hateful rhetoric. Now, this rhetoric is against women, LGBTQ plus people, liberals, freedom, essentially. And so that's the result of it. That's why they want to keep them from forming relationships with other people and doing that kind of thing, going beyond sex here, forming meaningful relationships with members of either the same sex that they're attracted to or the opposite sex that they're attracted to. And so, again, it's all there to keep them in this mindset where they're furious, where they're angry, and need someone to blame for being unhappy in their own lives. So, and of course, nothing dispels that white nationalist incel bullshit than getting one of those meaningful relationships with another person, connecting with another person. And again, that's what cults try to fill the void of, by connecting you to a group of like-minded people. And so, now that said, remember, the entire movement of being an incel or a groyper is to try to be one of the most horrible people that you can be. And that has the effect of driving people away from you, right? Especially prospective mates. Very few women are going to want to go for somebody like that. And so now that gets the people that are in the group. It reinforces the, anti-feminism, anti-women, mentality by, reinforcing the fact that, well, the women don't like me. I don't know why they don't like me. I mean, I'm just a white nationalist racist who's a misogynist, and I think that women owe me sex. But, I don't know why they don't like me. Because I'm an alpha male. That doesn't make any sense. No, in reality, they're some of the biggest betas that I've ever seen. Beta male. And that's what it is. It's an insane point of view. And it's funny they think, oh, if only I'd get laid, things would be great. But too bad women are such horrible sluts, but they're not sluts for me because they won't have sex with me, but they're horrible sluts. But I'm such a nice guy, and I'm not a Chad, and I'm not an alpha male, but I'm actually also a strong man. It doesn't make any sense. It's very, very contradictory. But generally, all of it boils down to, I'm mad at girls. And that's it. And it's incredibly warped. Incredibly warped. Because, again, mainly these people, these young men get played on by these leaders like Fuentes because they can't get women to like them. And they're very, very bitter about this. Very bitter. Now, and look, understand that, like, look, in my younger years, I used to strike out. I get it. I'm a bit of an awkward guy in person. I'm not exactly the best looking, most athletic guy in the world, right? And so what people like Fuentes do is go after people who tend to have a difficult time dating or relating with people. I have ADHD, and it was also, and that kind of led to the awkwardness, a little bit of shyness and stuff like that. And so people get targeted. And some people are, end up being very, very receptive to the message of, hey, it's actually not my fault, it's their fault. And so, it's preying on people who are hurt and vulnerable and turning them around to hurt other people. And you're right that, a lot of people strike out. I'm seeing that in the comments. But most of those people do not turn into nut bars. It's very, very true. Very, very true. And I think what contributes to that is partly the internet. Because what you can do is connect with a lot of people and then use that power, that ability to connect with people in different spaces, different states, different, whatever, and use, for example, one of the things that they use is memes, right? They use a lot of memes, and then they use propaganda, and of course there's all sorts of different things that they do to try to bond with these people and to create this group and to maintain this group and to keep people in line. And I think that's really, really important to point out. And again, it's that cult-like atmosphere. Now, I think that it's really good that this guy broke out of it and literally broke out of Fuentes' basement. I mean, and he's calling the movement for what it is. But at the same time, when I read this story, I thought, look, it's good and all that, this person met somebody and then they see the movement for the bullshit that what it is. But women shouldn't have to come save these men for themselves. And I think that's the big problem here, right? Women are not your therapy. They're people. They're human beings. And so, again, it's good that he's out, but I just think something needs to be done to get people to not be interested in going to that direction. Because we see this in these far-right incel circles where, they are told to believe, they're taught to believe that women owe them something. Women owe them their bodies, and that women are not human beings. No, what you need to do is you need to counter that by teaching young boys and young men about respect, about, consent, about how nobody owes you a goddamn thing just because you're a man, and just because you might be nice to her face. That doesn't make you a nice guy if you're just nice to go and get something from someone else. No, it makes you manipulative, and it makes you kind of an asshole. So don't do that. Don't be an asshole. Actually respect people. The one thing my dad told me about relationships is you can't change them. Yes, and you shouldn't be required to change people. Women are not your therapy. All right. Let's move on.
We now provide you with this updated report from Georgia officials. Take a listen.
Georgia officials have concluded that there was no widespread voter fraud by election workers who counted ballots at the State Farm Arena in November 2020. The results of this investigation indicate that Ruby Freeman and Wandria Shea Moss did not engage in ballot fraud or criminal misconduct while working at State Farm Arena on election night. A legal matter with this network and the two election workers has been resolved to the mutual satisfaction of the parties through a fair and reasonable settlement.
What you just saw there was OAN, One America News Network, taking a gigantic L. Now, this was part of a settlement, as the video mentioned, in the case filed against them by the two named Georgia election workers. Now, these people were smeared as part of a propaganda campaign to get Trump put back into power illegally. So there it is. OAN finally had to admit that they were lying about the election and that they're habitual liars. Every time they had talked about the election, they would say false things. They would put out false statements. They would put out lies. And now, thankfully, they've had to correct themselves. Now, that said, look, they had lied about the poll workers, as I mentioned, lied about the election. They knew it. They did it anyway. And they did it because of the money. And I think that's very important to point out. This was all about clicks and views from conspiracy-minded people, right-wingers. Now, that put real people into dangerous situations. In fact, the Daily Beast noted that Freeman and her daughter, Moss, were harassed online and in person after these baseless rumors began circulating online with right-wing blogs. For example, the Gateway Pundit is one of the places that had pushed this conspiracy theory against them, that had called them out, that had named them. Now, as a result, Gateway Pundit also has been sued. Another lying publication that pushed right-wing conspiracy theories for cash, along with Alex Jones. Alex Jones got sued for lying about a mass shooting in which 20 children had died. So this is what they do. So you see a pattern? You see a pattern. It's all about the money for them. It's all about trying to play to an audience. In reality, I think it's also a great example of audience capture, where this audience basically, it's not so much of the channel's content itself growing an audience from the things that it talks about, but actually being captured by that audience. They believe that you have a lot of Republicans that believe that the 2020 election was stolen from them with no evidence. OAN steps in and says, oh, no, you know what? You're right about that. And we're going to talk about it nonstop as long as you're watching. That's it. As long as you're watching. That's all we care about. We're going to keep putting out these baseless conspiracy theories. And, if people get hurt in the meantime, what do we care? We're making money, guys. We're making money. It's all about the money for them. And truth be damned, right? And by the way, it is very, very lucrative now in today's media atmosphere with so much distrust of mainstream media. And I think for legitimate reasons, it's very easy to build an audience full of gullible dupes. It's very lucrative and easy. And so that doesn't, unfortunately, extend to the far right. There are people who watch MSNBC, for example, who might actually believe that Nancy Pelosi is a strong fighter for reproductive rights, and that it was Bernie Sanders is the reason that Roe v. Wade has been gutted today. But somehow, even though he voted to codify it in the Senate, whereas Joe Manchin did not, and Nancy Pelosi, as well as Clyburn, Hoyer, were all out there stumping for somebody who voted for defunding Planned Parenthood. Henry Cuellar, running a campaign in Texas against, well, is being challenged in a primary by a progressive who was pro-choice, Jessica Cisneros. And so she's not a fighter for choice. She is fundraising off this. And I use that as an example because there is an alternative reality in other places. Not just right-wing media. Again, I focus on right-wing media because they're usually the ones that are talking about the most insane conspiracy theories. But you do have some of that misinformation coming from the supposed left, which in reality is corporate media. Again, Nancy Pelosi, in charge of the House, Speaker of the House, during the time, 2007 to 2009, where they had a supermajority. Obama did not decide to codify Roe v. Wade in any way. Said it just wasn't our priority. Okay. And again, she is fundraising off of this. And she keeps going back and saying, oh, no, we can, we can negotiate with the Republican Party. That's right. We can convince them. We can sway them over to our side. You have the same donors. On issues of economics, you essentially do have the same side. Again, not on social issues, but even so, when it comes to the reproductive rights, she hasn't done a goddamn thing. And so, look, again, I point this out because what we have is alternative realities being created that people believe based on who's giving them the information. Look, mainstream media sometimes does wonderful fact-based reporting. And as opposed to right-wing media, which is almost, I get 99.9% garbage. But still, they also do corporate propaganda that is very blatant. Do you ever see the Washington Post of the world, though, be forced to apologize for lying and smearing? Especially when they do it against progressives. No. And again, that's because of Washington. It's the groupthink, it's the power structure, all of that stuff. And I'm not saying the reporters are bad people, specifically. No, I don't think so. Unlike in the case of OAN and Gateway Pundit, well, yes, those people are horrible people, but it's just that in Washington, these reporters, and by the way, politicians, good politicians that I generally like, they get sucked into that Washington think bubble too. And so that's an issue. And so understand that when you see articles, fawning opinion pieces on Joe Manchin, or, promoting James Carville, when he's talking about, oh, it's the wokeness that's the real problem in the Democratic Party. Or when you hear, pundits talking about how principled Nancy Pelosi is and how much of a strong fighter she is, take that with a massive grain of salt. Because really, it's all about marketing. It's the same amount of salt that you would give an OAN segment about the election. BS, complete marketing for the powerful. Again, we have objective facts here that Pelosi and Clyburn backed Henry Cuellar. Henry Cuellar is an anti-choice Democrat. Simple as that. I showed you the other day that Pelosi, again, thinks that she can persuade Republicans. That's her mouth. She said it. It's not at all true. Not at all true. So please be cautious where you get your information. Definitely don't get it from OAN or the right wing. But please also watch out for mainstream media. While they do some great reporting now and then, they also cover for people in power. The people who are not looking out for you. So as always, again, just be careful. Always double check, fact check your sources. Even sometimes I get it wrong. And, you know, we're human. And I certainly do not have the resources of CNN or MSNBC or, you know, any of the mainstream outlets who do have all of this money to run fact checks and do, you know, real reporting. Again, always cite multiple sources, use multiple sources, and, you know, critically do some critical thinking about who you trust when it comes to the media. Elon Musk claims America is becoming too left. Yeah, funny that he does that. Real strange. All right. Go back to some fun. It appears the right wing has outdone itself again when it comes to cringe. It's no secret that the far right has shifted its focus in the next generation of young people in the hopes that they will win the culture wars. They're always thinking very long term. So now the question, of course, is how do you convince an even more diverse group of young people with access to information pretty much everywhere in the palm of their hands, where they can look up and counter BS narratives that tax cuts for rich people and corporate deregulation is awesome? Well, I think they've tried to figure it out, and their answer is the memes, or at least a couple specific memes, which leads me to showing you possibly the most cringiest video I have ever watched. Take a look.
My name is Benny Johnson, and welcome to the world exclusive premiere of The Left Can't Meme. Ladies and gentlemen, an exclusive series on Parler. Parler, where free speech lives and is championed in the form of hilarious memes and content that we are going to be highlighting on our show. Now, many of the memes we will show you on today's episode would get you banned on social media. Why do a show on memes? Because the memes hurt their feelings. Our first edition meme review, The Left Can't Meme. The memes of the week, very important. Musk memes, so hot right now. And the people at Twitter are like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Here's the libs being fired off like rockets. Very funny, very good. Elon Musk planting screaming libs in the fields. Libs just want to date Elon Musk. Here's Elon whipping people out of the temple that is Twitter. That's really good. Twitter's top lawyer reassures staff, cries during meeting about Musk takeover.
Wow. Hey guys, the left can't meme. Now let me sit here and ride Elon Musk's dick for almost 3 minutes straight and repost some of the same triggered lib face memes that we've seen since 2016. This is, ironically, this feels more like it's tailored towards boomers who think that they're cool. And like, oh yeah, we can get the kids. Yeah, we'll show the triggered face meme again. Elon Musk. Isn't this so cool? Doesn't this make you want to vote for crusty old politicians whose sole existence is to give tax breaks to a Walmart? No. 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 And by the way, all of our old politicians, or most of them, are crusty and old and out of touch. They can't relate. But wow. I mean, wow. Look, I was young once. Maybe I'm not getting it. Maybe I'm not getting this. Was this supposed to be funny? I didn't see anything that even was close to being humorous. I mean, they replaced, what was it? CNN Anchor's head with a potato. Okay, and? Oh, triggered. Oh, trigger lives. Oh, potato. Ah, he's a potato head. Wow. I'm not a fan of CNN, but that's it doesn't make any sense. Why a potato? Why a potato? I don't know. But it actually gets worse. And it really shows you how shallow the well is when it comes to right-wing memes, okay? Because, look, watch. Just watch.
Where would the meme world be without the screaming lib at Donald Trump's inauguration? Where would we be, ladies and gentlemen, without the screaming lib? We got to have the screaming lib. What would become of us? We need this meme, and it will live forever, by the way. These memes will never die, and the screaming lib meme will never die. One of the most important memes in the world. Now! Ree! And then the Ree as the chorus. And then Elon Musk swinging in the swing with them. Oh, man.
I watched the whole thing. There's stuff that I left out. It's basically just two things, two memes. Elon Musk and the screaming lib. That's it. That's all you got. That's all the right wing has. That's it. I mean, wow. Wow. The worst. The absolute worst. Now look, this guy. So look, this guy, Benny Johnson, by the way, the weirdo host, right? You know that he was fired for plagiarism because he doesn't have anything original. He cannot come with any original thought into his head because he's got to copy it from everybody else. And so, of course, this is the guy they go to host a show about memes, ironically titled "The Left Can't Meme," while showing that the right obviously cannot meme because they just literally have two things. Again, they have two memes. And then I have one joke, the helicopter joke. That's it. I mean, now look, again, he got fired. 41 of his articles when he was at BuzzFeed were based on the work of other people. Then he went to the conservative Independent Journal Review, where he was fired once again for plagiarism. But not just plagiarism, by the way. Conspiracy theories, of course, and violating company ethics and being a bad manager. Wow. And now he's at Turning Point USA, apparently doing this garbage for Charlie Kirk, proving that no matter how much of a talentless hack you really are, if you're right-wing or you're pretending to be a right-winger, I don't know, there's billionaire money that's just waiting on the table for you. That's who's funding this. It's on the table. Just take it. Just take it. Just be completely unfunny, and the money is yours. That'll get the kids involved in conservatism, interested in it. Oh, yes. But here's the thing. It's never going to be successful. Why? Because policy. Right-wing policy is not popular. I mean, you look at all the different right-wing economic and social policies, deeply unpopular with Gen Z. And so nobody looks at rich people and thinks, we need to subsidize those guys more. They need more money. They need more tax cuts. Yes, we should do that. They do not have enough of our money. And so what do? They bring out Elon Musk. For some reason, tech bros seem to love him, even though he was only rich because his parents owned a South African emerald mine, then invested in a bunch of companies, either invested in them, bought them out, or did a couple of startups. And I'm not saying that SpaceX and Tesla aren't good ideas, but the companies themselves, they're filled with labor violations. There are some serious issues with those companies. Union busting, all of that stuff. Not very popular, right? Even though electric cars and spaceships are kind of cool, and I like those things. But those things were also based on stuff that already exists, technology that already existed. And so you can't really call Elon Musk, oh, revolutionary. What a wonderful inventor. He didn't invent anything. So again, they trot him out, and then they try the only trick conservatives have, which is grievance politics, which target frustrated young men. They tell them that the dystopian hellscape that they're living in is not because of capitalism run amok. No, it's feminism. It's the feminisms. It's wokeism. And then here, let me distract you with some memes. It's all they got. And so, I mean, look, if I didn't know any better, I would actually think that this would be a brilliant parody, because it has all the hallmarks of an amazing troll job, except that it's not a real troll job. It's real. I think that's the most amazing fact about this. Wow. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones had a bit of a meltdown on his show. I guess that's not unusual, but it seemed pretty desperate. Let's take a look.
Everybody we have on is fighting with everything they've got. This is a war against you and your family of inflation and collapse. And they know everybody's going to wake up in the midst of it. That's why they want to silence the leaders, because they think they can then defeat you. So when you keep us in the fight, you keep yourself in the fight, and this is life and death. So go to InfoWarsStore.com and get amazing products, and sign up for auto ship and continue to support. Make a donation at the top, and go to the Stone Defense Fund and make a donation to him, because he's a gladiator and a champion in the fight. And if you don't support us, you're helping the enemy. And I'm not bitching at listeners. I'm telling you, this is all-out war. Roger?
Roger. Look, I know Roger Stone, but it just makes me think, yeah, Roger, like he's on a walkie-talkie or something. I don't know. All right, so I love this. Give me money. You're helping the lizard people take over, along with the aliens and the pedos and the deep state. It's a war for your mind. War for your mind. The war, people. Do you really want to help the goblins by not buying my extra Brain Force Plus Ultra? That's a war for your mind. No, there is a war going on. Of course, it's a war for your wallet. And it's happening primarily on right-wing online spaces. And in order, of course, to do that, I've noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, it's pretty clear that they're just out crazying each other every single day. And that's to get the donations. I mean, look, right now, that's why Jones is ripping the Q people to shreds right now. hey, look, I'm here for it. Let them fight. The Q people are also insane. But look, they're going at each other because Alex Jones says, how dare you get into my crazy? That's my grift. What are you doing? Get out of my grift. And look, Jones, he's also pretty desperate. And I think that's the important thing about this. Why? Because he lost the Sandy Hook cases by default judgment. All these lawsuits. So he's on the hook for a lot of money. And so what he's doing is, first he cleared bankruptcy. Now he's trying to move his money. And I broke that story down earlier. I don't know if he'll be able to hide all of his money. But even so, if he's not able to hide all his money, then that money's going to be used to pay the Sandy Hook families. If he does, if he is able to hide his money, then, well, I'm assuming that they're going to go after other things. And so that's probably why he's in a panic. And he's probably also playing this up to be, to get richer, to make more money. I don't know what is true on that. I mean, again, it could be a little bit of both, either or, doesn't, whatever. But the blatant scamminess of it is the most interesting thing. You can buy my dubious trash, or you're helping my enemy, our enemy, because they're after you. It's as if you're sending them a check. No, you're not saying. It doesn't make any sense. But again, the people who watch Alex Jones, well, they're probably some of the dumbest people in America who believe that they're smart, and that's the way conspiracy theories work, because it makes people feel like, oh, no, you don't understand. I actually understand. I get this. It is a deep state, and I'm not a sheep like you. So I get these things, and I believe that some of the craziest things in the world, but it's because they're true. It's because I've seen maybe some circumstantial evidence here or a shitty YouTube video about this conspiracy. But the fact that you don't believe it and I believe it means that I'm smarter than you. See, that's what it is. I'm smarter than you. No, you're not. You just want to think you're smarter. But again, they don't believe in objective reality to begin with. It's very easy to dupe these people, as it is with old fools, to part them with their money. And that's exactly what Jones has capitalized. That's exactly what Jones built his entire empire from. So, speaking of scammy people, let's go to Mike Pillow.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy. But you haven't. Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell has apparently spent a lot of money trying to overturn the 2020 election. Because, of course, he has. How much? Well, according to Lindell himself, so obviously dubious source here, he spent about $30 million. This according to an interview he had with The Guardian. $30 million trying to overturn the election. Can you imagine what somebody like myself could do with $30 million? Holy crap. Or like regular people, $30 million. But no, he apparently spent it on nonsense conspiracy theories. Now, Lindell told the outlet he'd used the money to retain approximately 70 lawyers, cyber consultants, private investigators, and others to amass evidence of voter fraud. Easiest money they ever made, that's for sure. The Minnesota businessman who inserted himself into national politics by echoing the former president's false claim that the election was stolen from him, also spent $500,000 just last month on an Arizona lawsuit filed by two Trump-backed candidates to prevent voting machines that Lindell claims are defective from being used in the upcoming elections. So, look, whatever these people are getting paid, again, it's got to be the easiest paycheck they've ever made. It's almost like taking advantage of the guy. Almost. Because they ain't going to find nothing. They ain't going to find no evidence because it doesn't exist. But again, who cares? Because they've already got the money. Look, even the cyber ninjas had to come out and admit, all that money in Arizona, we couldn't really find anything. Looks like the election was the results were legitimate. Anyway, easy money. There's easy money in grifting the grifters, turns out. Very interesting. So now, the second thing here is talking about the machines. So now, the machines, a lot of places that were being contested by Trump supporters, they have already replaced a lot of their voting machines. For example, look, this is not a state that it was challenged in, but just to give you an example of states that are changing their voting machines, Louisiana passed a bill requiring new voting systems to produce an auditable voter-verified paper record. And the state is also in the process of selecting new voting machines. All right, that's fine. Another state that was not challenged, Texas. Texas law requires the state to phase out something called a DRE, which is basically a touch screen voting device. I remember doing a segment, I remember talking about how back in 2012, these DREs were flipping votes from Obama to Romney. And so they have had some issues, right? And I've talked about these machines. That's why I believe in, hand counted paper ballots. And I've always believed in that. Now, the Texas law requires the states to phase those out by September 1st of 2026. Indiana, another state not challenged, and I think this is very interesting, passed a bill in January requiring jurisdictions with DREs to add voter-verified paper audit trails. Again, totally fine, right? By 2024. New Jersey has already required that since 2009. And so, look, interesting that actually there's a lot of states that are challenging this that are not replacing their voting machines. Interesting. Now, look, I think it's fine to update and replace this stuff. I think it's fine. I think we should. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And the good news is there actually has been significant progress. The Brennan Center for Justice notes that in 2014, you had 43 states that relied on machines that were just old, that were past or near the end of their expected lifespans. 14 states used at least some machines that were no longer manufactured and difficult to repair, which again could be problematic. Obviously, since that report, there's actually been significant progress towards replacing actual insecure systems. The biggest block to this, of course, is a lack of funding. So this is where it gets into the hypocrisy, right? But first, the Brennan Center estimates that the cost of replacing principal polling place equipment and equipment for assistive voting that was first fielded in 2010, because a lot of these machines have a lifespan of about 10 years, 10 to 15, would be about $350 million. Now, that is, of course, money that would go into the pockets of these big companies. The Center for Secure and Modern Elections has also estimated the full cost of replacing outdated voting machines for the next decade. So there are machines in service that are fine today, but will be outdated within the next couple of years, the next few years. The total cost to replace it, all the stuff, are election infrastructure machines, as well as scanners, $1.8 billion. Interesting. Now, of course, it's even more interesting when you find out that there's been no actual federal funding that has been allocated to administer elections or to maintain this infrastructure that supports elections. So I think that's a very, very important point. Interesting thing to point out, because here we have Republicans federally, for example, that that have not allocated funding to do this stuff. Donald Trump was in office. He spent pretty much his entire administration talking about the voter fraud, right? And then didn't allocate any money to replace any of these machines. Didn't even come up. Didn't even come up at all. And by the way, you had Republican states that were critical. Well, Georgia, for example, they could have done something. They could have allocated funding. They could have replaced their machines. They didn't do that either. And so, look, the reason that I point this out is because this is not about election security. This is not about accountability. This is not about voter integrity, right? No, this entire thing, this crusade by Mike Pillow is just about covering for a man-child who lost an election that he could have very well won had he not dropped the ball on COVID-19. Let's be real. We were really close to being obliterated by Biden. Had it not been for the administration's terrible COVID response. Biden's polls are underwater. He's got a 38% approval rating. A disaster. Disaster. That said, Donald Trump could not accept that he had lost. And so he cries and cries and cries about voter fraud. And again, what we've seen from voter fraud in this election in 2020, not widespread, not massive, but the times that it happened, weirdly enough, happened right-wingers or had perpetrated it. Many of them voted twice for Trump or had impersonated a family member, even used a deceased family member to vote additionally for Donald Trump. The Villages, it's a host of voter fraud. It's a nest. All of that. And so, look, that's where the real fraud is. And even that, not nearly enough to swing an election. So all of this, again, is just trying to cover for losing an election. And you know, some of you point out, trying to replace the machines, or just the existence of machines themselves, well, that's taxpayer money going to private corporations. That's good for the companies, good for corporations. But there is no fraud, not widespread. And I think that's very important. But there are people like Lindell who are brainwashed by shady conservative groups, like the family. And I know it sounds bizarre, but TYT broke this story wide open about how this conservative group recruited people with money in order to push conservative politicians that would help them. But, you know, Mike Lindell was one of those people. He has money, and he has dropped about $30 million just on this alone. And had given money to Donald Trump. And so I think that's really indicative of what that group is all about and what they were looking for in somebody like Lindell. Now, there's a little bit more. According to The Guardian, Lindell said he planned to underwrite similar anti-voting machine lawsuits in the next few months in many other states, including Colorado, South Dakota, Texas, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Alabama. He says, I'd like to file the lawsuits in 50 states that didn't come all this way not to succeed. We've got to get rid of them all. He said that he is spending about up to $200,000 per month to support a group he launched late last year, Cause of America, to restore trust in local elections. He'd also hired former Fox News reporter Laura Logan to produce a documentary about voting machine fraud that Lindell says will be huge. It's not going to be huge. What evidence do they have? If they had evidence, it would have been nice had they presented it at the 60-plus court hearings that the Trump team had lost during the election. If there were any evidence, it would be here. We would know about it. And believe me, I'd like to know if there were actual evidence. And I keep telling right-wingers, Biden lost the election, Trump won. Okay, give me the evidence. I would like to know. I would love to know. Nothing. nothing. It's going to be a complete flop. Just like Dinesh D'Souza's clownery of the film. Fox News isn't even going to show it. It's a clown show. And Laura Logan, what's going to happen with Laura Logan? Well, she's just going to get a little bit richer. She's going to get the guy's money and put it in her pocket. And look, again, I'm fine with replacing the voting machines. Or even, again, going to hand-counted paper ballots. Not because of the fraud, but because a lot of these things are outdated, like most of our infrastructure in this country, as a result of, ironically, shoveling money to rich people in the form of tax cuts and subsidies. The big issue here, though, is that promoting the baseless claims about widespread fraud that didn't exist, that does real damage to our country. Real damage to our electoral process. Far more than a few faulty machines could ever do. There are people out there, as a result of this, all this propaganda, that no longer trust in our political process. Now you might think, oh good, they're just not going to vote, right? Now there are a few that, of course, that will hear all this and be like, okay, I'm checking out. Well, it's all rigged. I'm just not gonna vote anymore. Okay, if that's, I mean, you're wrong, but okay, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. But then there's another group of people that, again, are radicalized by this right-wing media. They don't check out. They pick up their guns. That's where you run into a real problem. You had January 6th, you saw that. And unfortunately, since January 6th, nothing in this country has seemed to have changed. Meaning that this could happen again. And God forbid, they might actually be successful next time. When they use these lies to try to justify a fascist takeover of our country. All right. All right. Yeah, I always seem to go dark at the end of these stories. I don't know why. All right. So let's do some super chats here. We have a few from you, very, very fine folks. So let's go and check that. Give some shout outs here. Let's see. Evil Pomeranian. I love it. The Pomeranians. Just saying hello and thanks. Thank you, Evil Pomeranian. I know what you did in the election. No. All right. Dystopian Dragon says the grift is strong with this one. Virginia Thomas, aka Ice Dragon, says Elon didn't come up with any original things. He just bought the companies. Yeah, exactly. Madi Darno says, thank you, friendlies, for your kind words and sincere emotions. They're everything to me. Please believe in yourselves, in each other. The future is effing ours, I promise. We just got to keep fighting for it. You know, and by fighting, I mean, we got to organize. You can't vote your way out of this one. Okay? So the whole thing of like Democrats who are just like, oh, vote harder. No, that's not going to solve the problem. You need to organize your workplaces, you know, get together with your communities. Build something from the bottom up that's going to put pressure on the system and work in an outside way to try to get rid of that corruption, you know, to try to eliminate that money in politics, bypass Congress and put pressure outside of the system, on the system. And yes, it is important to have the insiders to be able to pass that policy, because at the end of the day, you are going to have policy passed. But it's not going to happen if you just vote. Outside pressure, inside results. And I think really before we even think about putting people on the inside, you've got to have that pressure machine on the outside. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Oh, hey, look at that. Twitch here. Hunger Games 1989. With, let's see, a tier 1 sub. Thank you. 5 months of Waldorf Nation. Here's to another 5 more months, many more to come. Keeping me sane where I have gone insane. Well, thank you, Hunger Games 1989. I really appreciate that. Changebox, thank you for the very kind 5 community subs, gifted subs. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Money out of politics all the way, says Changebox. 100%. 100%. Let's do it. We got to get that money out of politics and get rid of that corruption. All right. We do need more progressives in office. Yes, it's true. And so, look, I'm never going to say give up on voting, but I'm just saying to the people who still believe that all we got to do is just vote. No, because that's not going to solve any of your problems if you just vote. You got to give the pressure on the outside and organize. I look, this is why I love what they're doing at the different Starbucks, unionizing Amazon. You've got to have that. You got to have that pressure. That alone makes 0 sense. Agreed. How the hell are people not represented by a candidate allowed to donate to them? Again, you're making too much sense. Making too much sense. All right. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you all. Read a membership message. All right, let me find it. Let me see if I can find it. Membership. Not sure where that is. So hold on for a moment. Let's go back up. See if I can find it. I can't scroll up any further. Okay, hold on. Oh, I think I'm losing my battery here. My headset. Where are you? All right, unfortunately, I do not see that. Oh, congratulate Madi on his PhD. Oh, hey, congratulations, Madi Darno, for getting a PhD. That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Congratulations. That's a lot of work, getting that PhD. Hey, that's awesome, though. All right, that said, gotta go. Massively out of time. Thank you for going on the Nation Meet today. Like and share the stream if you haven't already. Really, really appreciate that. You're all absolutely amazing. Thank you. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, Nation. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Will eat your ass.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Filter. Witches and warlocks.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.